Okay. All right, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:35, and here we are. Okay. Good evening, Milton. I'm not sure, am I on?
I probably, if I could just say right before we start the meeting, the microphones are placed at the optimal distance, so you don't have to pull them closer, you don't have to speak in a louder voice, you don't have to pull them towards you, so where they are fine.
We're not on, are we, Mike? Are we on live now?
We're not, tonight's just being taped, it's not being broadcast live.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as you call the meeting to order, we hit record.
It's prime time tomorrow, right?
We just
Okay.
let Susan, we'll be right back.
Oh. So, are we taping?
Yeah, you call the meeting to order.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And if I push the microphone, it turns it off? Is that what happens?
You have to flip it upside down.
So the button where it says push means nothing.
So if you need to, you need to have a quiet whisper with your neighbor, you can push the button and that'll mute it for 2 seconds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to welcome the town of Milton, apparently, to this televised meeting of the Warrant Committee. And I want to welcome our newest member, James Potter. And he will be sworn in shortly by the town clerk, Susan Galvin, after we vote him in. So I think I can assure you that we do not have a serial anything here in this gentleman at the table. And
We do not have what? Say it again. I didn't hear you.
I don't have any issues with voting him on. He hasn't shown up in any police reports, to my knowledge.
Nope, not.
So,
So if I make a motion that we vote to add James Potter to the warrant committee for the session.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, don't we usually have like a little biography time or something? I don't know why you haven't been on the police blotter so far? No?
Brian Walsh handles the recruitment and vetting of the candidates for our committee.
Did Brian
and-
appoint him?
Yes. Well, technically, he did not because Brian can't appoint people
After the meeting?
after our first meeting.
Mhm.
So, but I don't like to become the next recruit. I'm not in the recruiting business. Brian is in charge of most of the committees in town, and so we let him continue his work.
Mhm.
So, at any rate, so, any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Thank you.
Grand. So, welcome to the committee, and you may now have your oath administered by the town clerk. Thank you.
Ask you if you would raise your right hand. And do you solemnly swear to perform your duties to the best of your ability, to uphold the bylaws of the town of Milton, the general laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the Constitution of the United States of America, so help you God?
I do.
Just need you to sign
Yes.
right there for me. If I could just take up a couple of extra minutes.
Please, every year, new and old members have to go through a bunch of paperwork, including understanding of open meeting law and a few other things. So Sue's in charge of all that, so I'll let her explain it all, because I get turned around. Thank you.
Okay, so, as Ted explained, every year, and some of you may have already completed that if you were sworn in my office. If you were sworn in the larger group, then I will be giving you both your acknowledgement for open meeting law. If you don't want the paper, it is dated as of August 1st, 2013. That's the most updated copy. If you don't want the paper, I still have to acknowledge that you were given it. It is on our website. Solely your choice, but we will note it on this that you chose to review it on the website, but that you did get it, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is a little bit more confusing. Those returning members who have already submitted the online testing for ethics do not have to take it, provided you did it in either 2013 or 14. Okay? I have a list of those that we have. You may have taken it, we may not have the receipt either. We need to have the receipt in our possession. So, all the new people, however, do have to complete an online ethics testing. So I'm going to pass out that first to all the new people. Some of you know your names.
So, if I can just add that the online ethics testing is good for 2 years. So if this is your 3rd year on the committee, you need to do it again. If it's your 2nd year, you're all set.
This is basically a conflict of interest.
Right. It's actually pretty easy.
I've done
You've
it.
probably done it for any other number of reasons.
I had to get a certificate. They give you a certificate. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about.
It does have to be within 2 years,
Okay, thank you.
so.
So the first slip is just the acknowledgement that I received, that I gave you the information, and you have 30 days to complete that test. At the end, it will ask you to print a certificate. You can say yes, you can either save it to your desktop and email it to Gail. The instructions are in the packet I gave you. Or you can drop it in the mail, bring it by the office and give it to us, but we have to retain it for those 2 years. We'll notify you when your 2 years is up and when you have to take it again. Okay? So for those folks that have gone through this before, I still am required to give you your conflict of interest summary and have that acknowledged. So, I'm gonna pass that out. If there's a little red star beside your name, it's not that you were really good. It's that, I never received the receipt back, the certificate that you took the online. So if you have taken it, could you provide it to us, send it back over to us? If you haven't, could you get that to us? And if you need more information, you certainly can see me.
I think it's 9/12.
Now, does every committee in the town have to do this now?
Yes.
Tried
Very good.
counting the days. But I'm not great at math. I counted 4 weeks from today,
Great.
which would be 28 days, and then I added 2.
Anyway, if you can beam this up.
Today's date.
And
Yes.
Well, the numbers may
last
change.
but not least,
Right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like a Starburst?
not my kind of candy.
But it's gonna be hard to discuss them
Chocolate?
or even go through them without putting them up.
Yes.
You know, but it's already public.
You ate all their chocolate.
Right. I may not go here. Yeah. This is, that's the only thing I'm talking about. Okay. No, but I do want
As
to
of
go
today,
through this real
yes.
quick. Okay,
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yep,
Okay,
these.
yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Today, even though our first meeting was prior to today.
Yeah, because this is the date that I
There you go.
gave it to you.
So what's the directions of how to do this?
Susan, is the website here for?
For those that have to complete it, there is a sheet. For those that did not, so as a returning person, they probably don't have it in their packet, but I did bring extras in case.
I need everything you have, so.
Okay, you got it.
Sign today, 'cause this is gonna be notification.
Right, I will, that's all I need. I need this one signed as well.
Did you send this out already?
Yes, but I changed
Okay, we'll change it, so we'll send out a new copy.
Yeah.
Right.
See,
I do.
don't I return this to you after I read it?
You can,
Yes.
it's been my experience, people.
Oh, it says I've received.
Right, it's my obligation to give it to you, it's your obligation to read it.
I don't think you'd believe I was a speed reader going like that. You got it.
I believe you. Thank you.
I'll drop it on right.
Perfect, thanks. You. I'm not. I'd take your word for it. All right, well, I thank you for your time, and I
thanks
thank
for
you for
coming.
all the hard work that you have and will continue to put forward. I very much appreciate it, and if I can do anything, please let me know.
Jean
Yeah,
still
one more.
has your.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, this date, is that the same as?
It is, so all that
Okay.
basically is for my record saying
Yeah.
that I gave it to you,
I like that.
and,
And you wrote the whole thing?
nope, you can have the booklet,
Okay.
but if you decided you didn't want it, you could
Oh, I
give it
get
to
it.
me.
All right,
But
fine.
if you lose it, can't find it, have a question, it is on our website too.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
You didn't have the certificate. Well, you did last year. I thought I did mine last year too.
Okay,
All right, well, thank you.
thank you, Sue.
Great
Appreciate
seeing
your coming.
you. Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. See you later.
Bye, Susan. Thanks.
Want this door shut?
That's okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, at our first meeting, we went right around the room and people introduced themselves to each other, and I think we might postpone that this time because I'm interested in moving through the agenda fairly quickly tonight because I have a pinched nerve in my back. Thank you. So, the next item on the agenda is reviewing the articles and the schedule for the October town meeting. We just got them from the selectmen today. They were approved last night, and I believe there are 17 of them. We have a few copies in print available here, and we'll email them out to all the committee members, okay? Also, and we'll go through them right now. Also, we do have a schedule that was changed a little bit recently. The salient feature of the schedule is that we need to turn our recommendations and comments on these 17 articles into to the selectmen by September 16th, okay? So,
September 16th?
September 16th is when the Board of Selectmen would like to approve the warrant as produced by this committee. So we need to review these 17 articles, get the people in who need to tell us about them and form our recommendations and write our comments by that date. So we'll have a flurry of meetings in between Labor Day and September 15th, and then after that, things calm down remarkably until perhaps December. We'll have 3 or 4 meetings, and then January, February, March are when we'll have, maybe 7 or 6 meetings every month, and they can be long. So that's the shape of the schedule, but we'll send that out too. And the schedule is subject to change. I'm very happy to cancel meetings whenever possible. Most of the meetings that are listed here are just tentative to reserve our space, so that the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't snatch it, or the Planning Board, or whoever else wants the room. So I haven't even looked at these articles yet myself, and I'll slide to the side so that we can look at them. So
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
you can tell me right off the bat if you think somebody ought to be consulted on any one of these. For instance, capital items, water storage tanks. This is submitted by the Board of Selectmen and the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. So,
I would like to hear from someone.
we definitely will hear from someone. They haven't even suggested what kind of money they're looking for here.
Yeah.
So we need to find out about that. My guess is that we're going to want to hear from Joe Lynch on this one. He's the Director of the Department of Public Works. Our own representative last year to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee was Kevin Sorgi, and we're going to put his, is that on the agenda tonight? Later on, when we get to it, we have to appoint a member of our committee to the Capital Planning Improvement Committee, and Kevin has expressed an interest in doing it again, so I would like to take that up when we get to it on the agenda. But at any rate, I'm not sure who else really wants to be deposed on this item, but I think Joe Lynch is the guy who's going to tell us how important it is.
I
Kevin?
think also, Ted, I just got a glimpse at some paperwork that Joe submitted to the Capital Improvement Committee, and we're meeting tomorrow afternoon, so I can get it clarified then, but there's an indication that this could be a substantial amount of money. Perhaps we should have somebody from the Board of Selectmen, because if we're talking millions of dollars, this is something that I think the selectmen have to initiate.
Sounds great. Let's ask somebody from the Board of Selectmen to join Mr. Lynch for that discussion.
I don't know
Betty?
if you know this, but Kevin, do we already have water storage tanks somewhere in town? Where are they?
Well, I think we have 3. Up in Blue Hills,
Up in the Blue Hills?
Canton Line.
Okay,
Yeah, this may have to do with the reconfiguration of the water
yeah.
arrangement with Canton.
Mhm.
So, but I think we'll be better off hearing from Joe about these issues, because he's got a thorough command of it. So it looks to me like sewer enterprise.
Can I just, excuse me, can I ask?
Sorry.
When were you thinking to ask them to come in? Were you thinking the 27th, the same night as Bill Clark and Alex Whiteside?
I think for this exercise, we just want to identify who's needed for what, because I have no idea yet. We do have on the 27th, we've arranged for Alex Whiteside of the Planning Board and Bill Clark, the town planner, to come in and address the articles that have been submitted by the Planning Board. Beyond that, I'm not sure. Don't know.
I hope we can get them on a different night and earlier, if this is gonna be
Okay.
something big money, because if we bring them both in the same night, we might step on getting the information we need out of them, because the meetings might end up running longer than we need to. So if we can get them on separate nights and deal with the sewer and
Darn,
those
that's our
issues.
next meeting.
Huh?
Our
That
next
is our
meeting
next
is the 27th, and that's when I do have the planning board lined up.
Lined up.
So I will endeavor to have
You know,
this one lined up for the 3rd,
yeah.
okay? And that's about, you know, we can't, some of these things, we have to take them as they come,
Yeah.
so, all right.
Well,
So-
just separate the nights then. I mean, just because to have them both on the same night would be tough.
I grant you.
Yeah.
I grant you. I imagine that, aside from a discussion about cable coverage, that the night of the 27th will be almost entirely devoted to the zoning articles. So, okay, so, and here we are, Article 2, sewer enterprise, and then, you know, just cut to the chase, Article 3, water enterprise. These would all, Chapter 44, Section 53, F and a half. I didn't know you could have half of an F. But, okay, both of these articles are addressed at resolving the controversy that erupted at last town meeting, the big E versus the little e in terms of enterprise, and getting that squared away. So probably these two items would be effectively addressed by perhaps town council and maybe Anne Marie Fagan. I'll see who's been working on these, but I think that's a separate, even though it's water and sewer, I don't think Joe Lynch is involved here, so. Lee, Michael.
For the first article, since it mentions needing to figure out how the funds will be raised, do we need to talk to somebody about financials, not just why we need the sewer tanks, but how we would pay for them?
Oh, absolutely. For instance, until you get to the May town meeting, there's really not a lot of money to be had. They could come to us for a small amount of money to, you know, with a request for a transfer from the reserve fund. But that's really designed for small emergencies, not a capital project like this. So I am curious as to why it's on being put forth now, because I don't know how much money is involved here, but I think it's a lot. Kevin?
Well, this money is probably not gonna come from the levy, it's probably gonna come from water and sewer receipts. So that's another reason why we need to have, hopefully, Tom Hurley here. Because those rates are all dictated and set by the selectmen.
Good point. Right. Okay. The next article was submitted by the library, and they're hoping to gain a seat on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee for a representative from the library. I have already reserved September 10th for Chris Hodlin, who's the current chair of the Board of Trustees for the library, to come in and talk to us that evening about this article. And I think we do have our own representative to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. And, you know, Kevin might have an idea that we ought to have somebody else from that committee address us with their thoughts as to whether the committee needed or wanted another member. So that's that one. Article 5, planting trees. I'm all in favor of planting trees. I don't know, again, I'm not sure, since planting trees is neither water or sewer, to come out of the ratepayer, where this is coming from, unless it's possibly to accept a state grant, which may be the case. In which case I'd be all in favor of it, even if it involved a small amount of matching money from the reserve fund or something like that, but we'll need to find out. This would again be Joe Lynch, I think,
So the selectmen can put it forward.
or the select, well, absolutely.
Selectmen can put it forward, so.
But they put lots of things forward, and we really need
I don't know where it came from.
the one with the expertise who proposed it to the selectmen in the first place. So, landfill access road change of purpose. All right. This may need some study.
Where are we talking about? What area are we talking about?
I'm not sure, Frank. I
Probably up at Randolph Avenue, back road.
It's hard to tell from that, I mean.
Well, if it's the dump, the former dump. it would be-
former
Oh,
landfill
the
access
former
road.
landfill,
So it's
okay,
gotta
all
be
right.
up Randolph Avenue.
Okay.
Off to the left. And I'm not sure what the need for this or the intent is. Certainly, I had thought some of this was in the parks controlled, but
But
Guess not.
isn't the animal control group,
Dog pound, isn't it?
the dog pound, aren't they looking for some space?
I think
And-
this may be the area they're looking to move
I
to.
think they are,
so.
yeah.
But this is certainly something the selectmen need to talk to us about, and I'm not sure if we'll need somebody else on this or not, possibly the town planner, but we'll have him in on the 27th anyway. Business district signage. Okay. And then Article 8 is signs in residence districts. So last fall, we had an article submitted by the planning board that was going to deal with signs, and I believe, was it removed, or did we, no, okay, whose memory is better than mine?
Could you put that up so I can read the,
Okay,
Article 8.
there's a lot here.
Oh, I
Do you
see.
have
some
a
printed
spare
copies I
copy?
don't have.
Maybe you could give one to Frank right now. That'd be great.
Thank
A lot of times, the zoning articles go on for pages. So, I didn't bring my warrant from last fall. Did we have
Is this it
a,
here, Ted? Is this the one?
yeah,
Article 8,
Article 8.
I just have it Xed off, as
No,
though
it
we
was dropped. I
didn't,
think
we
it was
didn't
one
deal
of the
with
ones
it.
that was dropped.
It
was-
got
we had
referred
a
back
couple
to
of them,
the,
yeah.
So this might be it coming back.
Yeah, I think a couple of them that was one of the ones I think that got dropped out of the warrant when they never mind.
no, it made it into the warrant. We
Yeah.
wrote a
They,
recommendation on
and then
it.
they said never mind, you know,
And,
they did that.
and I think the planning board came to us and said, actually, does it say what our recommendation was on
Well,
that?
You know, this was the article that says signs expressing political, religious, personal, and/or non-commercial messages shall not be limited in size or number.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah.
Yes.
Which was kind of an odd thing to
Is that the
say.
extent of that article?
No, it goes on for
Yeah,
3 or 4
Yeah,
pages.
that's what I thought.
And then at the end, it says submitted by planning board, and I wrote in or board of selectmen, I don't know, somebody.
Okay,
So this might be it coming back.
but our recommendation on it was to send it back to the planning board for further study, if I recall.
Right.
Okay.
This
So
is
who
the 27th.
submitted- who submitted
Who has
this?
now then revised it and is tossing it in our lap again, so,
27th.
Article 7
7
and 8. So it's been split into two
So
items.
they'll go on for the 20th,
Hey, you
27th.
wanna look at it?
Not right now,
So
thanks.
that'll be the planning.
No, it's going
So
on
this is gonna be the planning board on the 27th.
27th.
Okay, so now we're moving on to Article 9, grandfathering change. Section,
Zone.
no, 4, IV. Okay, well, this is, a-
Non-conforming use of building and land. Slide that up.
Oh, this was zoning.
well, we will be eager to hear what the explanation for this article is, so, and from the planning board. It does not say that it was submitted by the planning board, but I presume it was.
So this was language in the zoning bylaws that they want changed, is that what that is? It's,
They do. This is, if you continue down a little
And
bit,
that was the change line.
they're hoping to add
Or
or
maybe otherwise
change
extended or altered,
this
where
piece.
such extension altered.
But as to the why,
Looks like a couple of double negatives in there, it's gonna be a tough one.
That's the new
Hmm?
language. That's the new language too.
That's the new language.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, our recommendation is, we are entitled to fix all matters of grammar. And to
Oh, such extension does not
bring clarity where we might.
Non-conforming.
So,
Interesting.
Article 10 is a similar situation where they would like to add some language or change some language. Anyway, as we discuss these with the planning board, if we discover that somebody else's expertise really ought to be questioned, then we can revisit these, obviously. So, okay, Article 11, planned unit townhouse development. This I'm pretty sure we saw briefly last fall, and then it was revoked by the planning board before it even hit the warrant. Is that right? So this is another deja vu all over again. And this is massive, this is really long. So just briefly, another item on the agenda is who wants to jump onto which subcommittee? And one of the subcommittees deals with zoning, and we have one member left on that subcommittee, that would be you.
I get to chair it, I thought.
Well, you don't necessarily have to chair it. But anyway, so we'll need some lawyers, if we have any, so, to volunteer for that. Article 12 looks like another planning board job. Accessory structure height. Don't know what the difference.
One is the first, figuring out what the first floor is,
Mhm.
and this is a different one, this is the height of the building now.
Right.
The other
There's-
one was distance setbacks.
Setback, yeah.
This is how tall it can be.
How high?
So one always wonders what's driving any of these proposed changes, but we'll find out, so.
Well, I have a question about that.
Certainly.
The planning board probably has, how do we uncover the other side of the argument, if there is one, from what the chairperson of the planning board's view of the article is?
Well, first we ask the planning board why they're proposing this change. And we hope for as much candor and specifics as possible. Beyond that, I believe that part of the mission of the warrant committee, I remembered to bring it, according to the bylaws of the town, that we should inform ourselves, so, of the matters before the town. And it says, Section 3 of Chapter 3 of the bylaws of the town says, It shall be the duty of the warrant committee to inform themselves concerning those affairs in interest of the town, the subject matter of which is generally included. Goes on to say that the officers of the town shall comply with all our requests for information, and, anyway, it's our job to figure things out.
Can we ask people to come beside the
Absolutely.
townspeople?
Absolutely.
I mean, the town
You can ask-
officials?
Absolutely.
In a lot of cases, if there's an issue, people who are on the other side of the issue will,
They make their way
they'll
here.
make their way
They'll
here.
make their way here.
and-
Good.
And present their
Right.
case.
Right.
They're now being informed of that.
Yeah.
Darnell?
And like I said, how do this come up? A lot of times, these articles are generated because either a developer,
Right.
a resident, or somebody's coming to the planning
They made a
board
request.
to ask for these changes to be set or made happen. Those abutters or the other folks against that will make their feelings known as well.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of get the counterplay in some of what's happening here. A lot of times, they're not just sitting there reading the zoning bylaws and say, hey, this is a great thing to change. That's how most of this becomes a.
Right, no, we want to understand the planning board's thinking behind any of their proposals, and, they'll generally be forthright.
Right.
In fact, I expect that. So, but it does mean that getting them in early allows us the opportunity to follow up later, and still before September
That's great.
16th. So, okay, Article 13, establishment of a master plan implementation committee. Whoa, okay. Now, this is gonna be the planning board and the board of selectmen, and probably Emily Innes from the planning board, who's spearheaded the master plan, will come in and talk about this. I'm just quickly trying to see, how do they, okay, the board of selectmen and the planning board together will be appointing a master plan implementation committee.
As far as I know,
Interesting.
Ted, Emily was the
That'll be
planning
interesting.
board's liaison to the master plan committee, but
Mhm.
wasn't there a chair or somebody of the master plan committee
Um,
that isn't a selectman?
I'm I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who the chair of the master planning committee was, or is, unless it was Emily Innes, and apparently I'm wrong, so.
She's a spokesperson, but she's not the chair.
But we'll look into that,
Okay.
so. But at any rate, this, I'm sure that this committee is necessary, because otherwise, everybody will say, oh, what a wonderful document this master plan is, and it'll collect dust.
Yeah.
So I'm sure this is a necessary thing, and it's the logical next step. But we'll hear from the planning board and the board of selectmen on that.
Question for you on that, is that not premature?
I didn't hear that.
Darnell?
Is that not premature? Because I don't think the master plan is finished yet. So,
Um,
And isn't the Board of Selectmen the place, and the boards, like the school committee and the park department and so forth, aren't those the people who should be involved with the implementation coming before us, and not a committee in general that's looking at all these things?
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to get to.
Yeah.
Cheryl Tagayas is on the master plan committee,
Yeah.
and she is also a former warrant committee.
Yes.
Michelle's-
Yeah, she just stepped down.
I don't know.
Well, an unnecessary proliferation of committees is, just gonna slow things down, but if they have a specific mission and a real brief, it may be a good thing. So we'll just have to hear from people and see why they want this and why they think it's a better idea than
Why is it ready?
than
Is it
having it coordinated by the town manager.
And isn't it due to be ready soon anyway, before the October
The master plan?
Yeah.
I believe
The
so.
report.
I
It's
believe
supposed to be
it's-
ready before the October town meeting, correct?
Okay, yeah, 'cause that's my question is it's like, I expected to see a master plan presentation. This is what we found. So I hopefully they'll have that by then. But that's what I'm saying,
So
this committee, that's what I'm asking, that was my question is,
that could be
Where's
the,
the
that could be the
presentation for-
first night of, or third night of fall town meeting. We don't know, Darnell.
Right.
yeah, so that's what
So
I'm
be careful what you wish for.
Right.
Oh, because-
It'll be the third
All
and
right.
fourth nights of
Those, yeah, I'm
So-
just saying.
fall town meeting.
So, anyway, no, we absolutely will hear from the planning board, and since this seems to be a joint suggestion, I imagine we might be able to get one of the selectmen to sit in on the 27th.
Or the chair, or a representative of the master plan committee, someone who's,
That might be good, too.
yeah, because
Yep.
they want somebody who can speak to the readiness of the master plan to be rolled out and presented, because otherwise, we're talking about, if they're telling us they're a year away, so why are we worried about a committee at this point? So that's what I'm saying, just
Great.
find out where we at,
Right, no, because
update on.
people will want to know why there's a committee without a
Without a
plan to implement.
We got another,
Great. Article 14, fire station facilities renovation. I don't know, we just had a committee on that. Okay. To see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for expenditure by the Fire Space Needs Committee. Oh, for further study. Okay, I believe that the previous committee was unfunded. It was volunteers, and they did a great job. They even repurposed the library, which is under lease for a number of years, so I'm not sure where that went, but, anyway. This is submitted by the Fire Space Needs Committee. Okay, so this is Steve Marash. And he will make a fine and impassioned argument for this. And we need to think about how this goes, you know, how this fits into the needs of the town as a whole. So I think when we have Steve in, we're also gonna wanna have Will Clark and a selectman in, because this is small money, but we've gotta think, you know, for the I don't know, design and construction schedules, I mean, those cost, and I mean, you know, I don't know, 5 million, 10 million, preparing for that could easily be $50,000 or $100,000, and is this what we want to do? So.
I'd be interested in knowing, excuse me, how this committee got organized in the first place. Were these people who saw a need for it, or was there a balance in the kinds of people and their thoughts
Sure.
about on
The
that?
Fire Space Needs Committee was appointed, I think, by the town moderator,
Okay, thank you.
based on an article that was passed. I believe it was submitted by the selectmen, and they wanted $25,000 attached to that committee, and the warrant committee said, how about we see what you come up with and zero funding?
Okay, thank you.
So I believe that was the genesis of that committee. But this will attract a lot of attention at town meeting, this article, and we need, before we can write a recommendation on it, we're gonna need to hear from a lot of people on this subject. So if anybody has ideas of this beyond the Fire Space Needs Committee themselves, I mean, I think we ought to be talking probably well, at least start with Will Clark on this one and a selectman. So, sorry, Will Clark is the
Bill Clark
town
is
planner.
there.
Bill Clark.
What about the fire chief?
That's, I think he's on the committee, of the
I
Fire
didn't
Space
think he
Needs
was.
Committee.
Okay.
But if he isn't, we should certainly be getting him in here.
Okay.
I mean, this is a tough one because, you know, the whole business of fire departments is changing. And, you know, I'm not sure all of us are up on that. So what their
Fighting
need.
fires?
Well,
I think
they're,
smoke alarms are working.
yeah, the,
Fires as they used to be.
They do a lot of medical calls.
it's mostly medical response, nowadays, and,
Is that mandated by the state? Did they do that? I had asked that question. I was wondering why,
No,
why these big fire
there
trucks
were-
show up.
There were a lot of rules and recommendations about response time to different locations. So they did a study as to, you know, how long it's taking them to respond to different parts of the town. And we need 3 stations, and they're all in disrepair, was the recommendation from this committee last time. But they did go through a bunch of regulations that they had, where they needed to meet response times.
Thank you.
Trish, could we get copies of the Fire Space Needs Committee report for certainly all the new members of the committee, and could I have another one?
Do you want hard copies or email copies?
Are they still online? Weren't they online at the
Are they
website?
online?
I thought they were on the website at one point. They had that thing they did.
I didn't see
thought that
it, but
presentation,
maybe
I thought it might have
maybe it
been
is.
on there.
Okay. Anyway, why don't we try and make a few available in print?
Yeah.
Okay. That would be good. And if it's available online, would it be under the fire department?
Yeah, I think it was
Or
just
under
like a
the
search,
committee?
like under the,
Yeah.
I was like under something, like documents or something. You had to fish
Town
around in there.
documents.
Yeah, something to fish around for.
Great, great.
Hold on, let me just check it.
Anyway, we ought to review that before we discuss this article.
I can get you copies. I'll have to email it.
It's okay, thank you.
Like it's here, very easily accessible.
Great. Thank you, Trish. Yeah. No, this is a problem because this inevitably will point to large capital expense. And how we handle that is anybody's guess. I don't think we have a lot of state aid or anything like that ready to jump in, so.
Magnanimous unforeseen donor.
You know somebody, Paul?
Not offhand, no,
Cough 'em up.
I'll work on it though.
All right. Great. Article 15, easements.
Don't they have that right to do that now? Or they have to do it every year, asking on behalf of the town to get easements for roads and so forth? I don't understand this.
I don't understand this either. We certainly don't have an article like this every year. I haven't seen anything like this before, but it
Gives the government,
I think
it gives
we
the
need-
government a lot of power.
It does, it does. And so I think we need a selectman, and I think probably town council, John
Mhm.
Flynn, to talk to us about this one. 'Cause I really, this is a stunner to me, so. I
So
don't-
what are the limitations to these easements, is what the question really
Yeah,
is,
it's just-
because it's like,
Listen, we can hear from,
You know, I mean,
and what determines, what dictates,
well, I mean, I believe the selectmen ought to have as much executive function as practicable, but, we don't know. I mean,
This says
some
any-
easements might be really expensive,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
let's-
This says any and all,
Right,
any and all easements
Yep.
for any of the following purposes. I mean, that's pretty strong
kind
language.
of a captain's cloak,
Changing
pretty
it.
blanket, so.
And
So
take your,
that-
take
that's-
your
that's
driveway if they
further-
want.
And they're also abandoning
They might need
Existing.
more parking
existing
spots.
ones.
Anyway. And also abandoning other easements.
No.
Yep. So no, this is a, I'm sure this would, well, this might be the third night. Who knows? So, okay, Article 16, Special Purpose Fund. Okay, this is an article that I suggested, actually, and
I love it so far.
Anne Marie, thanks. It's short, and I will say Anne Marie Fagan crafted it for this purpose, and I will tell you that I think that it's something that the town ought to have. It's a tool we don't have currently. It's a place to park money. It's a savings bank account. Right now, if we wanted to park any extra funds from the state or proceeds of an override or anything like that to hedge against to put into general operations the following year, you have no place to put it. You can put it into the stabilization fund, and then the bond council will tell you, oh, you can never take it out, without a plan on replacing it. And you say to yourself, well, I wouldn't have put it in if I couldn't take it out, beyond a certain amount, that you want to. So this is, I'm happy to give people the history of what happened with the stabilization fund after the prior override, money that was saved because of stringent budgeting, extra free cash, things like that. If it could be put to good use in a following year, there's no place to put it. So this fund would give us a place to put it where if you needed it, maybe you're only gonna put $100,000 or $200,000 in there, but instead of funding a project that didn't need it, or adding personnel, or God knows what have you, if you have a place to park this money and then use it more intelligently the next year, since everything goes up, you're gonna need it at some point, why not have this special purpose fund? It is politically, its name is clean. It's just a special purpose fund.
What is it called again?
That's the purpose one.
Special Purpose Stabilization Fund for the purposes of balancing the general fund budget, okay? As opposed to saying, oh, we need a special purpose stabilization fund for override monies, So this is, I think personally, we're gonna need to talk about an override this year, and this might have been a good introduction to it, okay? But that's okay. Now, without putting a tag like that on it, it may be even more useful. Anyway, so this was my suggestion, and I heard from one selectman that we didn't really need this because, of course, in the event of an override, you don't have to use the full levy. So for instance, if you had a $3 million override, you wouldn't necessarily, that was approved by the voters, the following year you could only go for 2.5, and then be able to up it as you needed up to the approved level, okay? I think it makes more sense to raise the 3 and put the $500,000 in the fund, and save it for down the road. Anyway, so this is just as far as I'm concerned, this is a tool that some towns have. Milton doesn't have it. Why not have it? So,
It's
don't
also
know.
another thing that allows you to do true multi-year budgeting.
Right.
And this is what this gives you. And this is the thing that you can talk your 5-year plans and all this other stuff you want to talk. And so unless you have a vehicle to carry funds forward to really encapsulate future obligations, there is no really 3-year plan, 5-year plan, or anything else. This is the only fund. This is a fund that allows you to encapsulate funds to capture those expenditures. We know this year we have increased expenditures into next year, i.e., say, for an example, increase, salaries that we know are there because we already contractually obligated for them. The money's not going to show up out of thin air. This way, if we do go for an override and we are taking these type of things into account, this is where you say, okay, we need this money now. We're putting this money into a fund so that it's there and it's not a surprise next year like, oh, all of a sudden now we're cutting again, and we're always constantly cutting against the grain. We're going to need a firehouse. We're going to need a DPW. We're going to need these things. So there's going to be a portion of these funds that we're going to need to look at today, that we're going to need going forward, that we're going to need somewhere to guard against going forward. This is a fund that would allow us, as we think about what that override or what this number should be, can go here and protect the town going forward. That's what this is about. And this is what, say, now we're really thinking about, now we're putting on, I say the big boy pants, and thinking about multi-level, multi-year budgeting, multi-year, And so that's what this allows you to do. Otherwise, you're like, oh, we're going to spend it all this year, and then hopefully something will trickle in next year. Doesn't work.
So let me just make a quick observation here. This is for purposes of balancing the general fund budget, so it wouldn't have capital expenses, wouldn't figure into it, things like fire departments or.
This is
But-
for,
but
this is for
it- well,
operations.
This is for operations.
These are operational, but
Right.
the thing is, the
But
thing
still,
still
you're right.
eats up. It
You're
still, even though we says that it still eats up those dollars, and so we can use those dollars go somewhere else. So understand that this is called big boy pants. You only get so many dollars in every year.
So, anyway, I recommend this article. But we should discuss it in greater detail, and we could probably invite a selectman in to see what they think, or we should probably find out what the presence of this fund, how that will be thought of by the bond rating agencies, and whatever. We can get more detail on this. Article 17, eminent domain. This is eminent domain on a very specific parcel. Okay.
Is this the little piece of land
Yeah. Is
that
this the-
no one knows who
Yeah,
really owns it?
the sort of no man's land
Yes, I
piece
think this
in
is it.
between the Pendry's property. It was on the
Yeah.
presentation that
Yeah,
is in between what the town owns and what is not owned by the town.
I think this is it, yeah, I think that's it.
That's it. Let's do it. That's the first smart thing we did with this town.
So this is
With that piece of property.
This is great. This is 1,220 square feet, which
Not very
is
much.
about the size of this room, maybe a little bigger.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
1,200
square
And-
feet is not that small.
and nobody knows who's got title to it. And it's just one more unnecessary bug in this whole
Process, yeah.
tar pit, or whatever you know.
Are people fighting over this, who owns this land, or is nobody coming forward to claim that they own it?
Nobody's coming forward to claim it, but my understanding is that just the fact that it's one more
Yeah.
piece of one more piece people can fight over who's got the right to do something with it. And the other two pieces have plenty of other issues already with each other without this extra wedge of
Divisiveness.
foreign matter in between. So I don't know. This is obviously, you know, in order to write the comment on this, this is going to be a research project to write a decent comment on this one. But I think we will start by asking the planning board when they show up on August 27th for, I don't know, the CV of this parcel.
Would we need to get John Flynn involved with this too, or is that he already, has he already seen?
I don't see, I mean, if, you know.
It sounds like there'd be a title problem, you know, when they try to pass papers and title, there's a piece in there that they can't get their hands on, so.
Right.
They
So
need some.
This may be the only way to
Maybe the
resolve that.
solution to the
Yeah.
problem, yeah.
And it may be,
Title.
it may be an elegant and wonderful way to do it.
Right.
So,
I'm curious as to why there's a mention of money though, to acquire it, because if nobody owns it, then who are we paying money to? And are you planning on having somebody from Carrick come in to discuss their side of it? It butts their property.
I think that would probably be smart, but I'm not sure we will need to run that meeting tightly.
Run it tightly.
Yeah. But that's a good suggestion. We should have Steve Connolly, I believe. No, you're right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. We do need to get Carrick in, because they are an abutter. So I think we need Mr. Flynn and somebody from Carrick, and a selectman.
Now, because this is a specific piece of land at a specific place there, do we have to notify the abutters around that we're gonna be talking about this? I don't know.
Well, nothing's really planning to be done with it.
Well, someone's gonna be acquiring it.
Well, we don't really have.
I don't know.
No, that's a good question. I mean, certainly if it was the planning board, they would have to notify abutters.
I would assume eminent domain has some process that they go through.
As far as,
This committee?
we're not generally sort of a board for public hearings.
Okay.
But, you know, as far as I know, there are two abutters to this piece of land, the town and Carrick Realty. I don't believe there are any direct abutters beyond that.
MBTA,
Yeah, the T, but that one, yeah.
or is it not? Are they, or are, I don't remember what the map
I mean,
looked like.
I mean, in other towns, say Burlington, Vermont, if the university is interested in doing anything, everybody within, you know, half a mile gets a notification that they're going to be proposing something at a zoning board of appeals or whatever. And that's great. I don't believe that we are obligated to tell everybody within half a mile of Central that, you know, that we're gonna take this up.
May I suggest that we ask town
But
council on that?
let's do that.
That'd be smart, because there are lots of people on Elliott Street and those areas that are concerned about that piece of property. And if we notify them, it doesn't hurt anything. But if we don't notify them, we're supposed to, it will.
Right.
And I think that should fall under the eminent domain process. There's a process for doing the eminent domain, and that should be handled by the selectmen and their responsibilities
Yeah, that's
for
true.
that. So there's already a process, and our here is review. So if the selectmen want to go ahead and they're proposing to do an eminent domain, they have a process that they have to follow, and
And they have the
that- that- the
responsibility for that
responsibilities,
process, right?
associated with that process and stuff. So that's part of it.
That is a nice distinction, but I do take your point, Frank. I think we'd be on more firm ground if we ask Mr. Flynn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We'll do
I
that.
love information.
Thank you.
Belt and suspenders, won't hurt, right? Okay. All right, so this is our task between, sorry, Steve.
A couple observations. One, I would think that whatever selectmen come in could carry the day on, there was 2 or 3 different articles where somebody said maybe we should get town council.
Mhm.
That's a cost. I'm not sure that we need the cost. I think that the selectmen could come prepared to answer any questions that might come up on that, or ask without having town council out for another night meeting. And the other is a more general observation. I had thought that town meeting had set up the fall town meeting to take up planning articles and then financial articles that were time sensitive. And I look at this and some of these that I don't think are quite so time sensitive, that could be delayed until spring so that we don't start to get mission creep and have a fall and a Springtown meeting where there's no discernible difference. So, I would think that unless these storage tanks are falling down, or imminently gonna fall down, that Article 1, Article 2, the sewer enterprise, Article 3, the water enterprise, Article 14, the fire station, even, sorry to say, the Article 16, the special purpose fund, those are all, mostly financial implications that I think could carry to Springtown meeting without much of a problem.
Can I?
Yeah, let me just respond. You're absolutely right. The original purpose of having an enshrined fall town meeting as opposed to a special town meeting called at the selectmen's whim was to have a venue specifically for those long and pesky. You're right. There are some articles here that maybe should have been postponed. I can only speak to the number 16. I had thought that it would be appropriate to have it in the fall so that people could understand that the warrant committee was thinking ahead, instead of just saying, oh my God, we need this now. So, but you're right. As far as these others go, it's my experience that the selectmen are not generally interested in opening and closing the warrant in order to withdraw items that they have already put in and approved. But I think your observation is well made, and we should pass it along to the selectmen who are submitting these things.
Can I ask for
So-
clarification on something?
Sure.
You wanted
Sure,
to speak
Paul,
first.
go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, because, what Steve says, so far, that doesn't seem to be happening.
No, it doesn't.
The whole purpose, as, we've now had, 2 years of these, the 2 meetings, and the initial purpose for setting up the 2 meetings doesn't seem to be happening. There we're doing financial articles in the fall, and we're doing zoning articles in the spring. So how do we, either we abandon, that plan is abandoned for good. What needs to happen to bring that plan bring the reality more into line with that plan?
I'm not sure. Let me hear from Lee Michael first.
I'd like to know what people think the benefit of following that plan is, because the last town meeting had so many articles, we were afraid we were going to be there many more nights, and here are 17 articles that have been put forward. If things need to be voted on at town meeting, what does it matter what town meeting they happen at? I don't see the benefit of having only financial ones at the financial one and only planning ones at the planning ones, and potentially putting off to vote something later that could be acted upon now.
Sure. Let me just, first Darnell and then Steve. Let me just say that I think the original intent was to remove the burden of lengthy discussions about zoning articles from the spring town meeting agenda, because the thought was that most of these could easily go into the fall. A lot of them are driven by a accommodating developers or developer initiatives, and those initiatives would invariably come up at some point where waiting until the spring would be inconvenient for all parties, especially, any capital project, proposed by a developer. So if those projects were dependent on town legislation, then the idea was, okay, let's get the town legislation earlier in the fall. Anyway, that's what drove a lot of special town meetings, and so they might be called for October or November or December or January or any old time, and the warrant committee was often getting whipsawed by, that sort of vague threat of having to gear up for a special town meeting. Anyway, I think the initial thought was, let's take this burdensome zoning stuff out of the Springtown meeting and throw it into the fall. Anyway, I think that's the origination. Darnell?
And to add on to what Ted said too, it also gave almost a time certain for when we're gonna have that Springtown meeting. So instead of having it flip-flop and risk not being able to get that quorum in that Springtown meeting for that time that we needed it, that was another thing that we kind of like was part of the germination of trying to make that a time certain for this. Like you said, yes, it was also mainly designed to help with the timing of zoning articles, because to get a zoning article in place, there were so many different meetings and everything that had to have taken place with the planning board, and everything that stretched out over time, so many notifications, so much. It was hard to get a lot of that stuff into the fall town meeting on the timing thing. And it was easier in the summer when sometimes things kind of like took the pressure off to get it through in the summer, which helped a little bit. It took some of the pressure off of us here. It really did take some of the pressure off here, and having to try to sit through a ton of zoning, financial, getting the budget together, and then try to fight to get the warrant out. At the same time, we had to wait
I understand
30 days. So that's why I said it just got really crazy on not only this board, but all the different boards trying to make it
My
happen.
question is, why couldn't we consider other things other than zoning?
No, I think you could. I think it was just, we wanted to move, one of the things was, we wanted to try to move zoning there, and other things still could have been considered, but mainly
So
zoning.
Steve's point was that there's non-zoning things on here, they should be moved
Off, but I don't think
asking why.
I don't think it was all just pure. It wasn't just that pure zoning, but mainly zoning.
Steve?
Sure, it was the will of town meeting, and town meeting can change its will whenever it wants, but the will of town meeting was to try to handle the zoning articles in the fall, and to try to avoid special meetings if there were some financial articles that came up. The lead time that goes into Springtown meeting and taking up the financial articles, that's well underway in January. So in February and March, there's meetings, there's opportunity for vetting of issues. Here, we're like 60 days from a town meeting where there's gonna be financial articles. There's maybe 5 meeting times we've got scheduled between now and then, unless we move off of Mondays and Wednesdays. Trying to line up town officials to come to those meetings to give us the information, time to write up them, whatever the recommendation is in a coherent and complete way. It's, there's the opportunity to focus in on the zoning stuff and leave that stuff for when town meeting said that it wanted to address it. Just bring it up. I'm not gonna live or die by it, so.
No, it's a challenge to get this many articles taken care of by September 16th. So,
That's a good point.
so that's the major issue. But last year, we had even more. So And then a few of them got removed, so that was a very happy circumstance.
I think Steve hit what I was gonna say, that the town meeting has indicated what they want us to do. Are we in a position to just change it without the town meeting's input?
I think if we read that article that passed a fall town meeting, it didn't limit the content of the fall town meeting to zoning. I mean, or timely financial considerations. I think it just established the fall town meeting, and you know, maybe that was a short-sighted of the original article.
But in the recommendation,
In the
for
comment-
passing it or not passing it out there, isn't there
Yeah.
verbiage in there that sort of says?
In the
this is-
comment, I'm sure there was. I'd have
this
to
is
go
what
look
they- This is
again.
what the people
Right.
vote on. They vote on.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you can't write it all in the article itself, but the comments from
Right.
from the different groups says what they want to do.
Well,
I haven't read it recently, so I'm not sure.
neither have I recently, but I don't know, there are certainly some articles here. Storage tanks, sewer enterprise, water enterprise, which may be properly, or should be considered next spring, but perhaps we can knock them off quickly and without a great deal of pain. That's my hope, since we're looking at them now.
And
Anyway,
our recommendation could always be that it get postponed to the next town meeting because there wasn't time to consider it.
we have that right,
Right.
so. Referred back to the Board of Selectmen or the Planning Board for
Right.
further study, so. So, great, so we know what we're up against, and if anybody needs a print copy as opposed to getting it emailed to them, let Tricia know and she'll provide you with a print copy. And now, let's see, where, thank you, okay. All right, subcommittee roles and assignments. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to hand out quickly to you a list of the subcommittees we have, and you can see from the empty lines where we need volunteers. And on the second page, it will tell you, for instance, boards and committees include oversight of the Conservation Commission, the Historical Commission, Personnel Board, Planning Board, and the Warrant Committee. And what's in general government, and what's in public safety, if you're on that committee. So this is,
Now, that's even though that these articles, those articles on safety and so forth are not in this,
right.
in this one. You want the committees established ahead of time.
I want people to start thinking about where they'd like to contribute, and what they'd like to do. And we're not going to do anything immediately about any of this, because generally we don't need subcommittees or any input from them until the budget process is underway. With one exception, which is we have a subcommittee on zoning. And we have a bunch of zoning articles. And it's nice for me if I don't have to write all the comments, especially on zoning articles. So if anybody, I want you to have these schedules, because we will need to, fill out subcommittee assignments, I don't know, in October, or no, maybe by Thanksgiving, something like that. And so before Thanksgiving, if you'd like to let me know what say 3 or 4 things you might be interested in, that would be great. Obviously, there's no hurry. However, when you look over at the possibilities here and you think you'd like to be on the zoning subcommittee, please let me know very soon. Because I'm sure Paul can use some help writing those comments,
Thanks.
right? So, anyway, so that's what this exercise is all about today. Not that I'm always this forward-thinking. All right, so, yeah.
Ted,
Yes.
does it create a conflict of interest for me to participate on the zoning subcommittee if my husband is on the board?
On the planning board?
Take that ethics course
Yeah.
and you'll find out.
We'll get back to you after I take the quiz.
Do you have any more copies?
We didn't get any.
Did I run out? I'm sorry. I thought I, oh, wait a minute, here we go, 3 more. Sorry. Okay. There you are. Okay, great. So, the next item on the agenda is to vote a committee member to serve on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. And Kevin served last year, and as I mentioned before, he's interested in serving again. I think as I don't know if maybe Jim and Mike and Lee Michael and Betty and Jean don't know, but I think you do, that Kevin was a past treasurer for 28 years at the town of Milton, so I think he's eminently suited for this role and has a wonderful perspective on the financing needs of the whole town. So, at any rate, we do need apparently to vote this. Yes, Paul.
When you're done. Okay, I'll just go, I move to nominate, Kevin as the Warrant Committee's representative on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
Second.
Grand. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gee, I'm overwhelmed. Thank you so much for this.
All right.
Can't wait to get going again.
You will be
I
overwhelmed.
wanted to do the friendly amendment
So-
to that.
Is the process we're gonna vote on each one of these all first?
No, this is the only one that needs it, although we did have to vote somebody onto the sewer, or the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and so we looked around to see who wasn't here, and we voted them on. But, no, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, I mean, I guess in the words of Barney Frank, after he won an election, he said, well, the good news is I won the election, and the bad news is I have to serve. So, sorry, Kevin, it's a lot of extra work, but there we are. Thank you for doing that. All right, so I am going to suggest that in the interests of my back, that I'm going to skip agenda item number 5, a discussion of the 2016 budget. It actually should have said process. Anyway, we'll take that up, I don't know, as soon as we can, if there's a hole in our schedule. I will bring when you see it next, I will bring some sort of a spreadsheet to show my estimates. And the other related item is that I'm hoping to, at some point, get a presentation from the 5-year plan working group. And I would like to invite the school committee and the parks and as we discussed before, in to hear that with us. So I don't know when we'll fit that in, probably after September 16th at this rate. But if we have some thought on the budget before we see what the 5-year folks think, that would be all right too. So this year could be difficult. We probably don't So, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So I think we have 2 minutes, sets of minutes to approve. Did you have a chance to
Yeah, do you wanna do that?
change those up?
Or do you- I thought- it's fine.
We could do those. The other thing, you know what, I'd like to skip that because Mr. McCurdy had a very good suggestion last year, which was, you know, please send out the minutes you're asking us to approve in advance so that we can look at them and approve them quickly, not take the time to read them on the screen. So I will follow his suggestion to the letter. We have 1 set from last year and one set from this year. So not a lot of material yet, but Frank?
Will we get everything through our email? We'll get all the information through the internet, thank you.
Unless you want it some other way.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
And printed copies, you can come into the office and.
Yeah,
get
no, I
them
don't need
slapped
printed
off.
copies.
Now, if you want a nameplate, just give me $15, and I'll have one for you in 2 weeks.
Now, as a former superintendent, you do it this way. I'm gonna spend all that money for the town.
We can recycle some of the old ones.
Right, bring them in.
I may have one, though.
I'm just kidding, you're gonna get one. It's free, too.
No, nothing's free.
So, anyway, thank you all for coming, and Paul?
Move to adjourn.
There you go, Paul. Hold on, no, you had a job.
A second, yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Do we have